So, at any rate, this is the Silver Badge camp, as we call it, for the Soaring Society of Boulder. We had one last year, and the weather just did not cooperate with us. We did have one person get his Silver Badge. That was Justin Buckley. And at the end of this presentation, Justin is going to tell us how he did it. And so just like when you go to a soaring contest, whoever wins the contest stands up on the podium and gives a "How I Did It" speech. So we'll stay with that. So I'm going to go right to the presentation here. So this is the Silver Badge camp, and there's a picture of our discus. As you know, we have two disci, and they're ideal for doing a Silver Badge, Gold Badge, and all that. So state records, all kinds of stuff. It's a great ship. We're one of the few clubs in America that have that class of glider. So let's hope everybody takes advantage. All right, tasks to earn an FAI Silver Badge. And the Silver Badge is actually given by the FAI, the Federation the Aviation. It's all French, and I can't really say it, but FAI and the silver and gold badges are issued by them, but they're under their auspices. But actually, the Soaring Society of America can give them out in the United States. So one of the things you need a flight with a minimum time from release to landing of at least 5 hours. There's no declaration required, but the flight has to be on an IGC file from a certified logger. So your UDI that you would carry around is not a certified log, well, unless it's an IGC logger, but most UDIs are not certified, but both our FLARM and the S100 are certified. However, if you're using the S100, do not remove that small chip from the S100. If you really can't get it any other way, I can remove the S1. I can remove the chip. I know it's a little bit of, don't do what I say, don't do what I do what I say, but I've got a lot more experience. And that little chip, man, it's very easy to damage. And it's not the chip so much that we're worried about, is it gets stuck in the S100, and then we have to send it in to be repaired. And so don't touch that chip unless you can get Bob Ferris or myself or maybe one or two other people that really know how to handle that S100. The other thing you have to do is a flight to a turn point, and that turn point has to be 50 kilometers or about 27 nautical miles from where you release from tow. And most badges and records that you'll work on will have a start point and a turn, and several turn points. The FAA, the Silver Badge is kind of easy in that it doesn't require you to go through a start gate. Just that where you release is at least 50 kilometers away from your goal. You got to declare the task before you take off. You can't take off and go, oh, that one I picked, nah, I don't like that one. The clouds look better in the other direction. Now you can't do that. You gotta know what it is. You got to declare it before you take off, but you can change it, 3 times in the morning if you want, but then you have to do it. You have to overfly that turn point within a 1 kilometer wide circle. We commonly use Lookout Mountain, which is about 50 kilometers north of Gold Hill, and it's one of the nice things about that is it's very easy to see as you fly up to it. You're going to look at your computer, and then you look and you go, oh yeah, I can see it. So that's a nice one. And you can also there's some good safety airports along the way back to Boulder Muni. If you can't quite make it, you can stop in at Longmont or whatever. Other turn points can be used. It doesn't have to be Lookout Mountain. We'll talk about that a little later. And then you also have to have a climb of 1,000 meters, which is about 3,300 feet. You're not going to make it over the foothills to Lookout Mountain if you don't climb at least 1,000 meters. So don't even worry about that one. It's not worth thinking about. If you make the task to Lookout Mountain, you will have gained 3,300 feet. So the 5-hour duration flight, it's achievable on a good soaring day, and you can stay within glide. You have to be real comfortable in the cockpit. You have to bring a lot of water with you, and you have to have a way of disposing of the water that you drink. So make sure you know how the relief system works and all that. I'm not going to do it here. Make sure you know how to use the oxygen system. I think everybody here hopefully has had an oxygen checkout. You need an oxygen checkout. And the other thing you should do is get really comfortable with that S100. And the way to do that is to spend a couple hours or an hour or whatever on a day you're not going to fly. Sit in the cockpit and play with that thing. Get the book offline, the manual offline. It's not intuitively obvious to the casual pilot. You really have to spend some time with it, but it's a great computer once you do learn how to use it. The discus task, as we said, you don't have to go through a start gate, but you have to be 50 kilometers away. Nugget Ridge is less than, Nugget Ridge is a place where we normally get towed. When you say you want a northwest tow, they take you to Nugget Ridge. And because of the noise abatements now, they're even going north of Nugget Ridge a little bit. You have to be south of the canyon. So if you fly over Nugget Ridge and you find good lift, tell the tow pilot to tow you south. And when your computer says you're at least 50 kilometers away, 27 nautical miles, depending on what you're using, then you can release and then fly into that lift where you know that lift is on Nugget Ridge. And then you have to fly over Lookout Mountain, plus or minus half a kilometer. That's, if you can get there, it's not that hard to just fly right over the top of it. That's shouldn't be that. Then for the rest of the flight, you can go wherever you want. You can keep flying. You could do the whole task. You could turn that in. You could do the task where you go over Lookout Mountain if that's your goal, and then stay up for another 4+ hours and get the whole Silver Badge in one flight. Here's a chart that shows 50, and if you look in here, and it may not be as easy for you to see, but right there is Nugget Ridge. I've got the cursor on Nugget Ridge. Here's Gold Lake. Here's Ward. As you can see, they're all too close. But if you go south, just south of the Gold Hill town, the town of Gold Hill, you're okay. You're probably okay over Lee Hill, and those are hot spots too. If you want to be a little more sporting, you could use Mount Evans. Mount Evans is a 14er, and of course, very easy to see once you start heading southwest out of where we release. If it's a clear day, you're going to see Mount Evans because it's the biggest thing out there. And it's a lot harder to make your goal at the top of a 14er. But remember, we're doing it in a day where you've got a Schempp discus. This 50-kilometer task was intended to be, was originated when most people were flying low performance, 233s, 233s and 126s and that sort of thing. Preparing for the distance task, you really should read the sporting code. That's available on SSA.org. Really spend an hour on a day that you're not going to fly and figure out how to set up that computer and how to use it. The S100, that is. Begin monitoring weather a few days before you think you can do it. And then when you see your day coming up, get an official observer. And all that has to be is an SSA member with at least a B badge. We usually don't worry about A, B, C, and bronze badges. So somebody with a silver badge or more can do it. And of course, we have some coaches, myself, and Rob Zerby will also help you out with that. And they don't have to be standing right there when you take off. So for instance, if I know you're going to fly and I either fly ahead of you or don't go that day, but I see on the flight log that you were towed, and it's like, okay, that satisfies it. You got to declare the task in the S100 and upload it to the FLARM. You can build your own task on the S100. There is one in the Sierra Gulf. I put it in there the other day, and it's called Lookout for Silver Task. It's in the SS Proving Grounds file. It's already on the S100. You can use that or make your own. Doesn't matter, but you have to declare it. Brief the tow pilot. If you're that you need to release south of left-hand canyon, and if he takes you north of left-hand canyon, which is the pattern he has to follow, tell him you're doing it for a silver badge, and you may ask him to tow you a little bit south. After he's at a certain altitude, he can. So here's what the S100 looks like. That's the task on the left over here, where it says Gold Hill Lookout Mountain Boulder. That is the SSB's Proving Ground tasks. You can load those. Here's a picture of it. And what I suggest you do is when you're being towed, put it on waypoint and make the Lookout Mountain the goal, the waypoint, and it'll tell you how far you are from that waypoint. Now, I was sitting on the ground in Boulder when I took that picture, and so Boulder Airport is 58 kilometers away from Lookout Mountain. Here's another shot of it. You can see this white line down here. That's where you'd likely be towed. And this is where theoretically you'd ask them to, tow you south. And then you get here and you go, okay, good. I got good lift. Maybe you fly back here first where you know that lift is. Get high. Now, I also put this green line around here. If you leave, depends on how good the day is. But if it's a super, super good day, you could just fly straight to Lookout Mountain. More likely on most days, you need to keep going west after you release and then fly up along the edge of the mountains here. You'll probably find more consistent lift along this way than you would going straight at it. Okay, we've talked about this. Now there's some hot spots that I mentioned here. So the Lake Valley Golf Course is a hot spot, and sometimes you find really good lift over this Lake Valley Golf Course. It's at least 50 kilometers from Lookout. So on days when there's good lift over the valley, you could go up here. You'd still probably want to go west, out to the where the ridge line for the Continental Divide is, and then go up that way. but Jamestown is a hot spot. Lee Hill's a hot spot. Gold Lake is a hot spot. Ward is a hot spot. I think we covered all that. So here's more of a close-up of how you might get towed, and then they would tow you right along here mostly, but here's where I'm saying ask them to take you south so that you release at least 50 kilometers away. So for forecasting on when we can do this, SkySight's pretty good. SkySight's optimistic, but it has lots of great features. RAS is a free site. It's put on by Black Forest Soaring Society. It's really pretty good. It's very good. But it doesn't cover for instance, I'm going to go to Tucson and fly down there, and SkySight covers it. RASP only covers Colorado. But what makes for a great soaring day? You want to see potential flight distance of 800K or more, or thermal tops 18,000, moderate wind, cloud CU. That's a great day, which would make it easy to do this task. You have to document the task, and the way to do it is to get the IGC off the FLARM. You can do it with a thumb drive. Don't remove that small chip from the S100. Then you have to submit the SSA badge online at ssa.org. I'm going to show you that web page a little later. And be sure and tell me about your flight. I mean, I want everybody who gets their goal or gets the 5-hour flight. I want to hear about it. Because we may well have other meetings and ask you to tell the rest of the group we'll get the how we did it speech. And then, of course, to watch for your silver badge pin in the mail and your achievement listed in Soaring Magazine. There's a quiz. So on this quiz, everybody take your mutes off, and I'm just going to read out the answers, and everybody give an answer, and then you can self-grade. So everybody open up. So we want to hear you. All right. How long do you have to stay up to meet the duration requirement?
5 hours.
5 hours.
From release to landing.
Okay. How far must the declared turn point be when you're released from tow?
50 kilometers.
50 kilometers.
What are the requirements to be an official observer?
At least a B badge.
B badge.
And what devices can you use for declaration?
IGC approved
IGC
logger.
approved logger.
Excellent. And when must declaration be made?
Prior to the flight.
Before launch.
Prior to flight.
Good. And what devices can you use for the declaration?
PS100.
S100.
And the FLARM. The UDI, unless you have an UDI IGC, you can't use the
Did you
UDI.
land? What?
Soon.
Soon?
Yeah, you can use an UDI. You can take your flight off an UDI and put it on OLC. They'll take that, but you can't use it for badges. Not a certified file. And okay, when you do this attempt, can you take anybody with you?
No.
Nope.
Now, if you take Bob Ferris with you, it doesn't count. So you got to do it on your own, and that includes the 5-hour flight. So hopefully you can deal with the loneliness. Can you fly the distance task in the ASK 21?
Yep.
Yes, but you're crazy.
As long as you're solo.
The answer is no. Yeah, the answer is no. We don't want the ASK flown out of range, and that is because we don't have a trailer for it. So keep the ASK 21 in glide range. I've been to the Continental Divide at 18,000 feet, it's 21, and it's a good thing we had lift, but on the way back, I'm not sure we would have made it. So don't get too far away with the ASK 21, but you can use it on the duration test. And where do you apply for Silver Badge?
SSA
The
website.
SSA website.
Yeah, SSA website. And there's a Silver Badge. You all will be delighted when you get this in the mail. So first, let's see here. Whoops. Huh. What? Sorry, folks. Oh, that's why. Okay, so here's SkySight. And if you want to know, if you're using SkySight, and one of the easy ways to know if you've got a day coming up where you'd want to soar is to go to this potential flight distance. And it shows you, like, if you release here, you could do a 720K flight. If you release here, you could do an 810. I'm not exactly sure how they come up with that because they're obviously not 100 kilometers apart. But anyway, that makes this look like a pretty good day. It really wasn't. But so if you go to the next day, yeah, it's not as good. You see, like, because we have to release sort of in this area here. And so green's not so good. Yellow's okay, but it's not great. You know, it looks better down here where it's red. Where it's blue like this, forget it. There's no limit. Friday, yeah, you know, maybe there's some, you could do some soaring on Friday, but let's look on Friday. And, you know, it looks like there's pretty good lit. This is thermal strength. That doesn't look too bad. And then here's the height of the thermals. So the thermals are showing, they go up to 15.5. That's at 2 in the afternoon. Let's go back to this. Saturday. Yeah, maybe a decent day. Sunday, yeah, maybe. Monday looks like Monday looks like a great day. However, I was looking at this. Yeah, so Monday looks like a great day. I don't think it goes, yeah, it doesn't go past Monday. Here's the RASP. Now, the RASP, this is put on by Black Forest Soaring Association. This is today, and it's showing all this stippling, which means the air is going to be rough. There's going to be a lot of rough air. And I flew today, and it was pretty rough, like it shows. It also shows thermaling height. I don't know if it was really that good in terms of thermaling today, but you can use this one. Here is the SSA website. You all are members of SSA, so you can use it. And this is the badge application. So you fill out, you know, your information, address, and all that. What you're doing, you're out, you know. So you'd be looking for silver distance, silver golds, silver altitude, and these are other claims. And you put in somewhere, you put in your official observer. But it's all done online now. So it used to be you had to mail things in and all that. Anyway, so just fill out that form. Okay. Well, that's the Silver Badge camp. Let me this. Are there any questions based on the information we went over?
Armin, I just had a quick question. I mean, especially now as we're getting into the warmer time, is there a way to look at the forecast to see when things will overdevelop, just so we can kind of time it, or is that something we're just gonna have to?
Yeah, there is on the go back to the so like on Sky Site, there is one that is overdevelopment. And so you can see like on Monday, the 27th, there's not much overdevelopment. Let's see what we get on some of the other days. Well, there's Sunday. Now it said you can go these long distances, but look at this weather coming in here. It's not too exciting.
Yeah.
And then this is all pretty, well, this is real badly overdeveloped, but when you see these reds, these dark greens, and you know, like all this area is overdeveloped, you probably aren't slept in those areas. That's at 4 o'clock. So if you go to like 11 o'clock, there's no overdevelopment. If you go to 3 in the afternoon, pretty overdeveloped.
Okay.
So yes, you can do that with SkySight. Anything else before we get to the exciting part of this camp where Justin's going to tell us how he did it? Is there any other questions first, or?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions, Armin.
Yeah.
On land out locations, you mentioned, you know, some airports along the way. Like, what do you recommend when looking at kind of land out locations along that path?
All right. Well, let's go over here and we'll look at this. So if you got to Lookout Mountain, Lookout Mountain's about 10,000 feet, right?
Armand, I'm not seeing your screen. I don't know if anybody
Yeah,
else.
same.
Really? Share screen. You see it now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, I don't know. It was right. So Lookout's up here. There's Chrisman up here. Now you'd be going away from Boulder, but Chrisman is a good land out. It is a private airport. It's owned by the university up there, but you can land out there. This airport right here is Northern Colorado. It is controlled now, so you're supposed to call this. It has a virtual tower, and so find their number on the sectional or in the flight computer. Notice that it has these lakes right here. So if you say, oh my gosh, I'm worried, and you fly over here, once you get to those lakes, you will land out there. There's no getting away because you're going to go over those lakes and it's going to be dead air. There's also Vance Brand. That's a good airport, obviously a hard surface airport. There is a couple airports over here that are grass fields, and I've gone over and looked at some of them. They're fine. But gosh, I would hope you could make it to Vance Brand from there. You know, if you're at 10,000 feet, you just don't have to go that. When of course 10,000 feet. So let's say you're at least 11 or 12,000 feet. You should easily be able to make. I mean, you're not going to make it over Lookout Mountain, and hopefully you're not going to be there at like 3 feet over the mountain. It'll be at least 1,200, 2,000, 3,000 feet over. So you shouldn't have any problem getting back with the discus. You shouldn't, or the DG 505. You shouldn't have any trouble really getting back to Boulder, especially if the day was good enough to get you there. But even if you did it late in the day and for some reason the day just ended, I mean, you shouldn't have any problem making Vance Brand if not Boulder, with the height that. So 12,000 feet. Say you want to arrive back here at 7,000 feet. So you know you'd have 4,000 or 5,000 feet, and you should be able to go 5 miles per 1,000 feet. That'd be a 30-to-1 glide. Should be really easy to do. I mean, you should make it, but you only have to go 27 say you have to go 30 miles. Yeah, I don't know. Find a little lift along the way. But I would say Advanced Brand would be, if you're really worried, that would be the one that you'd go for. You'll probably have better luck though going back over here along the ridge of the mountains. There's going to be more lift over here. A lot of times you get over here, the air is just still, and you get good glides, but it's still there, and you're not going to find any lift. And when you get back to Boulder, you're going to have to. Anything else? Anyone else? All right then, Justin, you want to tell us how you did it?
All right. Yeah. I'll give a quick presentation. I'll share my screen here. I don't have a whole lot to say, but I'll show you my flight traces. Are you able to give me screen sharing permissions?
Yeah, advanced sharing options. No, it says all participants. Who can share? All participants.
I'll try it again. Is that working?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, sweet. It's hard to see this. Okay. All right, and you already covered the requirements. So the first thing I did planning for the Silver Badge was just looking at Google Maps and looking at different waypoints, looking at what, where the forecast looks to be good. Because, Lookout is what I chose, but there are other waypoints that may be more conducive to the forecast. So I put Gold Lake here, and I'll show you that on the next slide sorry, I'm just moving this out of the way. Let's see. So this next slide, this was actually a failed attempt at the Silver Badge. And the reason I put Gold Lake there was Gold Lake is actually right on the edge of this 50-kilometer ring that I drew on Google Maps. And I just took a standard north toe, and it was about a one kilometer short of that 50-kilometer ring. So I made it up to Lookout, but it was 49 kilometers from the release, and this flight actually didn't count. Although this was a convergence day, so I was able to fly almost without turning all the way there, and Lookout was right on the convergence line, but just because of the release point, that one didn't count. So this next slide is the flight where I got the Silver Badge. You can see I took a self tow here. You don't necessarily have to take a self tow. You could just, instruct the tow pilot, maybe release a little bit south of Gold Lake. But I elected to tow to Netherland here, probably up to 12 or 12.5. And it took me a while to climb up. I, struggled around here for a little bit, and I think I hit a little convergence. I can't remember exactly what it was like that day. I think it was more thermals than convergence this day though. And you can see the line of good lift was actually pretty close to the divide, over the peak to peak, maybe a little farther west. And as I made it north, I had to go a little bit east out of the good lift to get to Lookout. So I lost a little bit of altitude there, and we can look at the flight trace. Take a look at that. Hard to navigate this with the zoom buttons there. All right. Oh, well, yeah, I guess in this case, it may have been a little bit better to choose a different point, but I had Lookout already declared, so I had to leave there's a good thermal here. I had to leave that and lost a little bit of altitude, but I was able to make it back just fine. So yeah, that's the flight trace there. Do you guys have any questions on this flight?
Well, I see you also turned it in 300K. That's great.
Yeah, I was going to ask about it. Looks like you went back and forth up there, right?
Yeah, it was a pretty good day. Lift was really strong. And I think this one also counted for See the time on there. Yeah, it's counted for the duration too. But you don't have to do the duration and distance on the same flight.
But you did. So you did it all in one flight.
So,
Great.
quick question. When we declare the task for the silver, it's 50 kilometers from your release tow that you have to go, but it doesn't matter how you get there. You don't have to go in a straight line to get there. You just have to
No.
go around the 50-kilometer point.
No, and you don't. So this orange line is actually the farthest distance that OLC tracks. So that's gonna be the straight line distance. But what the SSA cares about is your release point from tow.
Perfect.
Any other questions on this?
What
I
was
was
your
just gonna
max
say
climb that day?
What
Climb
was
rate, max climb rate for that day?
Is there a way to see that here? I move this out of the way. It was a pretty strong day. I don't know if there's a way to see the max climb rate on
Yeah,
OLC though.
there's statistics. Yeah,
I don't,
I don't know.
yeah.
It looks like a pretty good day. I mean, you should have gotten some 7, 8, 10 knot thermals along the way. But looking at your trace down here where it shows your altitude, I mean, you weren't going up and down. You were pretty much staying. So you were pretty much staying in convergence. It looks like because you didn't get you didn't get much higher or much lower.
No, not really.
Yeah,
I think
you
that
were
was the lowest I was, probably around here. I think
Yeah.
this was actually one of the first flights where I got a little bit out of glide range of Boulder and I ended up choosing Longmont. But then again, there were good clouds everywhere too.
Yeah, you get low, you scare yourself, and then you find a thermal and you go back up and you go, what was I worried about?
Yeah.
All right. Well, good. Justin, thanks for telling us how you did it and showing us that trace. And so if we're done, go ahead and take the share off.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me turn that off. Trying to get back to full screen. I don't know how to do that.
I had one other question for Justin, if that's all right.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was just gonna ask Justin if you had any, if you can remember kind of your progression towards this point. Like, did you have other flights where you were up for 5 hours, or was this kind of one of your longer flights up to that point?
Yeah, so I actually I think I had one 5+ hour flight and a couple, like maybe 3 or 4 4+ hour flights before this. And one Silver Badge attempt. That was the one I showed you where it just released a little bit too far north. So I think the progression was I never really felt uncomfortable going farther north. I went, 10, 20 kilometers at a time farther north and, paid attention to land out options, and I never really felt too uncomfortable going a little bit farther. If that makes sense.
Cool. Yeah.
Hey, Justin, I got a question for you, and Armand can probably pile in on this one too. I know not on this flight, but sometime last season you had a land out of Crispin. And that's a lot of people's, one of the big concerns is like, hey, what if I land out? So can you talk through the process of like what you did before the flight to let people know you're going cross country and it could happen, or if it's even necessary? And then like, what was what was kind of the whole, just what was like the sequence of events to kind of get you home at that point, right? You're like, oh, bummer, I landed out. Okay, now what, right? I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah, so one thing I didn't do that I should have is actually tell people that I was going cross country and that there would be a chance of landing out. So I didn't do that prior. But for the land out itself, I was talking to Bob. He was flying that day. I was a little bit east of the good lift, and I was really just struggling. Getting lower and lower, and I would climb up 1,000 feet, and it would die off and get a little bit lower over the pooter. And eventually, I just got to a point where I was getting low enough, and I went straight east to Kreisman, and it was all blue sky there, so it was a flat glide all the way to Kreisman. And that was actually my first time landing at a different airport other than Boulder. But it was pretty uneventful landing there. There were actually some people flying drones from the university there, so I was able to talk to them and get the number of the airport manager, which actually would probably be a good idea to have that number saved in your phone if you're ever plan on landing at Kreisman. Because I was able to call the airport manager and arrange to get a tow plane. I called Eli Green and he came over with the Pawnee, and about an hour and a half, 2 hours later, he came over and we towed out and did an aero tow retrieve. So that went pretty smooth.
Did you go to low tow on the way on that long tow back?
Yeah, we were on low tow on the way back.
More stable is. So remember that if you're going to get towed back from somewhere where you landed out, if you try to stay in high tow position, it's really, once the tow plane levels out, it's really hard because the glider, has better glide than the tow plane. So it's hard to stay behind the tow plane. And so what you do is you go to low tow. It's a more stable tow position.
Is that because you're being towed at a higher speed?
Well, it's just that the tow plane isn't climbing anymore. So you're much more likely to get slack line in the rope when you stay same level as the tow plane.
Okay.
Because see, when you're climbing, normally when you're being towed, you're climbing, and that takes the slack out of the rope because gravity is holding the glider back and the motor's pulling the airplane up, and so the line stays relatively taut. And so when you get towed cross country, in other words, the tow plane levels out at some altitude, go to low tow, and then the line you'll have less chance of developing slack line. Anything else? If not, this concludes our first 2024 Silver Badge Ground School. Look forward to seeing all of you get your Silver Badge this season. And if not this season, well, there's next season. But let's give it the old college try here and get that badge. I want to see those badges out at the field, and I want to hear a bunch of how I did it talks. So with that, if nobody has anything else, see you all later.
Thanks,
See you out
everyone.
on the field.
Thank you.
Thanks, Armin.
Thanks, Armin.
Thanks, Justin.
Thanks, Armin.